What does it take for an abduction story to be taken seriously? For some, the sincerity in the witness's eyes is enough. For others, it requires shared terror, an experience lived by more than one person. And for the most skeptical, it takes something tangible, physical proof, marks on the body, unexplained scars, implants left behind. The case we are about to explore has all of that, but it has something more. This is not just the story of a passive victim. It is the story of a woman whose life was an impossible duality. By day, a brilliant engineer working on ultra-secret government defense projects. By night, a specimen, an object of study for non-human intelligences that marked her, monitored her, and took her against her will. This is the story of Hilary Porter, a woman who claims to have been abducted not once, but hundreds of times by a zoo of alien entities. A woman who said she saw the unthinkable, a hybrid nursery. Are you prepared to dive into this intriguing story? Let's open the files on one of the most complex and disturbing cases in British ufology. Our story begins in the ancient and mythical landscape of Wales, a nation within the United Kingdom known for its green valleys, ancestral castles, and dense folklore. It is a place where the veil between worlds has always seemed thin. In the mid-1950s, in a country house surrounded by this rural landscape, lived Hilary Porter, then just 5 years old. Like any child, she saw the world as a place for exploration. Behind her house, there was a large field of tall grass, a perfect playground. But on a day that began like any other, that field became a scene of horror. Hilary was running through the grass, the sun on her face, when she stopped suddenly. In front of her was something her 5-year-old mind could only process as a monster. It was not an animal. She would later describe it with terrifying clarity, a creature about 5 feet tall. Its skin was not smooth, but scaly, like a serpent's, covering a body that seemed strong, muscular. The face was a nightmare. In place of a nose, just 2 black holes, the mouth a small, lipless slit. Before she could scream, before she could even process what she was seeing, the creature grabbed her. Its hands or claws closed around her arms. Panic gave way to shock as she was dragged, her feet barely touching the ground, toward an object resting silently a few yards away. It was a ship, a metallic disc with the appearance of brushed steel, seamless, with no rivets. Hilary was taken to what looked like an elevator, and then, like a switch being flipped, her consciousness was gone. The awakening was even more disorienting. The smell of grass and earth was gone, replaced by a sterile, ozonated odor. Hilary was no longer in the field. She was lying, motionless, on a cold table. The room was a contrast of shadows and blinking lights on electronic panels that covered the walls. Beside her, other creatures moved. These were not like the scaly being that captured her. They were small, humanoid, with smooth gray skin.
Their heads were disproportionately large, dominated by black, wide, almond-shaped eyes. They walked back and forth, busy, indifferent to the child's terror on the table. She was undressed. The cold air of the room touched her skin. Then one of the gray beings approached. It held an object, a sharp, metallic, cutting instrument. With surgical precision, the creature pressed the object against Hilary's body. She felt the cut, a line of cool, precise pain that ran from her feet up to her neck. Absolute terror broke through her paralysis. Hilary screamed, a high-pitched scream of pure agony and fear. And once again, darkness took her.
The next moment of consciousness was an abrupt return. The sun, the smell of grass. Hilary was lying in the exact same field where she had been running. She sat up, her heart pounding. She was stunned, confused. The memory of the monster, the room, the cut, it seemed like a vivid dream, but the phantom pain still burned on her skin. She looked down at her own body. There was no cut, no blood, no mark. She ran home, trembling, and found her mother. She poured out the story, the words tumbling over each other. The monster, the ship, the gray men, the cut. She expected to be comforted, perhaps to be told it was just a nightmare. But her mother's reaction was something she would never forget. There was no shock, no disbelief. There was a strange resignation. Her mother not only believed her, but added a detail that rewrote Hilary's childhood. She told her daughter that it was very likely she had been being taken by these creatures for some time already. The mother revealed that since the age of 2, Hilary had a history of mysteriously disappearing from the family property. Hours later, she would be found, sometimes miles from home, alone, in a state of shock. When they found her, the girl was catatonic, unable to answer basic questions like, "Where have you been?" or "How did you get here?" That day in the field wasn't the beginning. It was just the first time she remembered. That first conscious contact was a trauma that shaped her life. Hilary tried with all her strength to lead a normal life. She buried the memory, avoided the subject, fearing the ridicule that would inevitably come. But the phenomenon did not forget her. As the years passed, the experiences continued. They took different, more subtle forms, but were equally disturbing. Memory lapses became common. Periods of time from minutes to hours would simply disappear from her day. And there were the marks. She would wake up and find strange bruises on her body in geometric patterns. Sometimes they were marks that looked like surgical incisions, which healed far too quickly. On other occasions, she found unexplained blood stains on her sheets near her head, or woke up with nosebleeds and bleeding ears. These events were always followed by a physical toll, debilitating migraines, deep body aches, and nausea. Even with this nocturnal terror, Hilary was a woman of logic and intellect. She earned a degree in engineering, and she didn't just get any job. She went to work for Marconi Space and Defense Systems. Let's understand what this means. Marconi was a subsidiary of the General Electric Company, GEC, a cutting-edge British industrial conglomerate. They didn't make appliances. They designed communication and engineering systems for defense contracts.
They were involved in satellites and ground stations for the UK Ministry of Defence's Sky Network. Hilary Porter was an employee working directly or indirectly for government defense. She held a position of trust. She was intelligent, rational, and guarded state secrets. And at the same time, she was, in secret, a guinea pig for unidentified beings. An impossible duality to sustain.
In 1970, Hilary was living in Cardiff. For our American audience, Cardiff isn't just any village. It's the capital of Wales, a vibrant and modern port city, declared Europe's newest capital in 1955. One day, Hilary finished her workday. Her husband was with her. They were on the road, driving home, a banal routine. And then, it happened. It wasn't a light. It wasn't a sound. It was a sudden, simultaneous blackout. In one instant, they were driving. In the next, as if in the blink of an eye, they found themselves sitting in the car, which was now parked. They were inside their home garage. The silence was total. Both were confused. Neither of them remembered how they had gotten there. The route, the streets, the garage door, all of it had been erased. Hilary's engineering instincts took over. She and her husband checked the car. What they discovered chilled them both to the bone. When they looked at the fuel gauge and the mileage, they noticed something impossible. The car had not traveled the full distance between their work and their home. It was as if the car had been teleported, taken along with them, and deposited in the garage. Later, when they went to shower and change, Hilary noticed something new, a mark on her stomach. It was perfectly triangular, like a bruise left by some kind of suction device. From that day on, the feeling of being watched, which had always been present, became oppressive. She felt she was being followed, monitored, almost daily. The connection between her work and her experiences became even sinister in 1974. Hilary was working in a Ministry of Defense laboratory linked to Marconi on the M3 motorway in Farnborough. During the day, she witnessed something peculiar. Two orbs, emitting a pulsing blue light, sped past the building. She noted the event, but nothing else happened to her. The real story happened that same night. A night watchman was making his routine rounds of the building, accompanied by his German shepherd. As he approached a restricted area, he noticed a strange light. Given the time, no one should have been there. The guard approached, cautious. He opened the door. What he found was not a spy. It was not an employee. Standing amidst the files, going through the cabinets as if looking for something specific, was a gray-type humanoid being. It wore a kind of helmet that emitted its own light, like a flashlight. The shock was absolute. The security guard panicked completely. The dog, equally terrified, reacted with aggression. The alarm was triggered. What happened to the gray is unknown, but the fate of the security guard is one of the darkest points of this case. He was taken, not to a regular hospital, but to a special government psychiatric hospital. Sources claim this security guard was never seen again. The next day,
The entire building was sealed off by the military. Hillary and the other employees were informed that a security incident had occurred. She knew the truth. The blue orbs, the missing guard. The visitors weren't just interested in her. They were interested in her work.
Hillary Porter claims to have had so many abduction episodes that she lost count. She became a reluctant anthropologist of a phenomenon she did not choose. She insists she has been in contact with different types of beings. There were the Nordics, tall, with very fair skin, human-like appearance, and blonde hair. There were the reptilians, like the first being she encountered in the field. Tall, scaly, greenish, and muscular. And there were the most common, the greys, small, thin, with large heads, black eyes, and gray skin. She has also been aboard various ships, disc-shaped, triangular, spheres. And because of her engineer's mind, she could remember technical details. She describes that communication between them is done purely through telepathy. She claims they possess an advanced technology capable of transporting matter, things or beings on a molecular level. This, she says, is how they manage to abduct people from their homes. They don't need doors or windows. They create portals, passing through walls and ceilings as if they didn't exist. Most of the time, Hillary had no conscious memory of the events. She just knew she had been taken by the side effects, the marks, the pain, the missing time. But eventually, she would have flashbacks, images like mental photographs or lucid dreams that she believed were repressed memories. In one of these flashbacks, she saw a humanoid of nearly 7 feet, wearing a green suit. He held in his hands, which looked like claws, a square device. Mentally, he explained to her that this device was used to conduct seismic tests, and that with it they could cause earthquakes on Earth. As she had previously worked as a forensic artist, Hillary had the ability to put the images she held onto paper, and she recorded everything.
In the spring of 1980, the phenomenon became even more audacious. One evening, Hillary had just put her daughter, Sally, to bed. She left the bedroom and went to the living room. And then she froze. Standing outside the living room window, practically pressed against the glass, was a tall figure. She describes a being wearing a black skin-tight suit which covered it from the neck down. It wore a helmet that seemed to blend into the suit and also wore gloves. Her first thought was human, an intruder, a burglar. She thought about calling the police. But before she could react, the figure raised its right hand in a gesture that looked like a wave. And for some inexplicable reason, Hillary did the same. She raised her hand and waved back. The movement was involuntary, as if she were being mentally manipulated, a puppet on invisible strings. Then the being moved. It didn't walk. It slid or floated backward at an abnormal speed, stopping on the garden wall. At that moment, the twilight illuminated part of its suit, and Hillary saw that the material was unlike anything she had ever seen. Before she could get closer to the window to get a better look, the being simply vanished, gone right before her eyes.
Of all Hillary Porter's accounts, the most shocking, the most profoundly disturbing, occurred shortly after the birth of her daughter, Sally. The birth was complicated. Due to reactions to the anesthesia, Hillary was unconscious for over 17 hours after giving birth. She was in the hospital, recovering. In the middle of the night, she woke up. She felt the need to go to the bathroom. Still groggy and with difficulty, she got out of the hospital bed. The hallway was silent. She walked to the bathroom. She opened the door. But it wasn't the bathroom. The white hospital tile disappeared, and she found herself inside a dark room, lit only by strange green lights. Cables and wires hung from the ceiling and covered the floor, and along the walls there were shelves. Dozens of shelves from floor to ceiling, and on them glass jars. Inside the jars, floating in a liquid, were fetuses. But they weren't human. They were hybrids. Hillary describes them with horror. Large eyes, no eyelids, no ears. Long arms and very thin bodies. They had feet but no toes, and all of them without exception had a small red mark in the middle of their chest. As soon as she saw that scene, she understood. The hybridization, the experiments, this is what it was for. In a panic, she turned to go back through the door she had entered, but the door was no longer there. The portal had closed. She was trapped. Then, a very strong, bright white, blinding light illuminated the entire room. Hillary collapsed, fainted on the floor. Sometime later, she woke up. She was in her hospital bed. The smell of antiseptic, the soft beep of the monitors. She looked at the clock beside the bed. Only a few minutes had passed. To her, it had seemed like almost an hour.
Hillary Porter eventually divorced her first husband and remarried a man named Ken, in whom she finally found support for her experiences. It was then, in mid-1994, that she decided to stop hiding. She began to speak publicly about the abductions. Hillary and Ken founded BEAMS, British Earth and Aerial Mysteries Society, an organization dedicated to investigating cases like hers and helping other abduction victims cope with the trauma. She became a famous figure in British ufology, giving lectures, interviews, and writing books. She even claims to have a tracking implant in her skull near her left ear, an allegation that, according to sources, has never been confirmed by an independent medical exam. But why her? Why so many people in Wales, Scotland, and Ireland? Hillary developed her own theory. She believes the key is genetics.
She suggests that descendants of the ancient Celtic tribes who populated those exact regions are genetically preferred by some alien races for the hybridization program, perhaps because they are more compatible. She also claims that there is a clear hierarchy. The Greys, whom she saw most often, are actually laborers, a worker species almost biological, led by other superior races, like the Nordics and the reptilians. Today, Hilary Porter is 79 years old. Her experiences, she says, decreased dramatically after she turned 50. She knows that many try to ridicule her story, but that doesn't stop her from continuing her work.
Hilary Porter's story is not a simple account. It is a complex labyrinth stretching across 8 decades. We have a woman with a scientific mind, a defense engineer who reports events that defy the very science she practiced. We have physical marks, the childhood cut that vanished, the triangular bruises, the alleged implant. We have collateral witnesses, her husband in the car incident, and the government security guard who disappeared after finding a gray in the archives. And we have the apex of horror, the vision of a hybrid fetus laboratory, connecting her own experience of motherhood to a clandestine cosmic program. Hilary Porter's case forces us to ask, where does reality end and trauma begin? Or is it that, for some chosen ones, trauma is reality? What does your intuition say about today's account? Is Hilary's connection to her defense work the piece that explains the surveillance? Or was it her Celtic genetics that marked her from birth? If you woke up with an unexplained mark, like the triangle on Hilary's stomach, would you search for answers or try at all costs to forget? Your like is more than just a click. It is the fuel that allows us to continue our work of exploring cases like Hilary's from around the world. Every like is a beacon to the algorithm, showing that the search for the truth behind mysteries like this must go on. Please check if you are already subscribed to the channel. Your subscription is vital for alien cases to continue bringing these accounts to light. And of course, leave your comment. Your perspective is an essential piece of this puzzle. Did you know Hilary Porter's story? Are there any details or facts that were left out? Let us know. If you've made it this far, along with your comment, leave the following sentence: I am a cosmic traveler. Until the next case.